Hey guys, what is up? So today we are diving into the Impact, Nightline, Reality Reckoning, Bethany Frankel'S Fight for Change episode. It did premiere December 2023 this month as I'm filming, and let's just get right into it. So it starts off with the interviewer, Juju Chang. She comes into Bethany's home, and Bethany's kind of just showing her where she does her beauty content, where she films, giving her a little tour of the home, of where all the magic happens. Now let's just skip to the first question that Chang asked Bethany, which is, if someone came up to you and they were like, Bethany, I'm really interested in pursuing reality TV, what would you tell them? And Bethany goes, you think this is going to be the next fun chapter for you, but you don't realize that you can be in a detrimental situation. And when being asked if that's the price of fame, Bethany's like, yeah, that may be the price of fame. And then the documentary gives us this montage of who Bethany Frankel is and how she's been on the reality TV scene for nearly 2 decades, almost, 400 episodes, nearly that, through 4 networks. So they really bring us into who this reality star is, Bethany Frankel, if you didn't already know who she was. So then Chang, the interviewer, she does ask Bethany, so you're starting this revolution here. This isn't you just crying for money, right? And Bethany's like, no, she hasn't asked for one thing. She hasn't asked for a dime. And I thought it was odd. And I think this is always going to be Bethany Frankel's disadvantage, her downfall. As Bethany is saying she hasn't asked for anything, NBC Studios, they came out with an article, plenty of articles actually came out, basically saying that Bethany was in talks to create her own scripted Bravo show just months before slamming the network for mistreating her or mistreating reality stars. Now, a lot of people in the industry believe that what Bethany Frankel is saying is true, is factual, that you need this movement, the reality reckoning, right? But a lot of people don't want to hear it from her. I feel like if Bethany could address her own criticisms, like truly address it, make it into a YouTube video or whatever, right? And not delete it, then at least if people came for her, she at least can direct them towards that video, because I do believe that's one of her huge criticisms, is that she's a hypocrite. And how could you want to sell your show to the network and then a few months later, blast the network for not taking care of the employees that they're contracted with. So I understand the frustration, but let it be known that people, they do believe that reality show TV stars are entitled to more payment. They're entitled to residuals. They're entitled to so much more than what they're receiving now. And then the show progresses on to showing us a clip or video that Bethany filmed in July, discussing how she has generated millions and millions of dollars in impressions and has seen like 0 residuals. And not just her, many other reality shows. Now, she was never good with money, Bethany says. She was never good with figuring out how to negotiate with that. But when it came time for her to sign her first contract for season 1 of The Real Housewives of New York City, one of the things that she did cross out, if you didn't already hear this story, because we all have heard it, was Bravo having a pay cut to any of her future businesses. And what was strange or interesting is that Bethany says that none of her other castmates did that. None of her other castmates crossed that out. And Bravo has since regretted it, which is why they made the Bethany clause, because after Bethany Frankel sold her Skinny Girl Margarita for a payout of $100 million, Bravo was like, okay, we need to start getting contracts out there for future employees or future castmates that if you are going to be on the show, you are going to promote your business onto the show, we deserve a cut as well. One of the people that they interviewed was Leah McSweeney, and if you don't know who she is, she was a cast member from The Real Housewives of New York City. Leah has shared with us, but just information she's also shared on the show, that she is an alcoholic. She is an addict. Leah shares with us that there's a way you can make a show without ruining people's lives. It's your life on display, and then your mess ups, your F ups are also on display as well. And then they add in Bethany's opinion on the matter, and she's like, it's reality TV. You're either being killed or you're killing. And if you are in that gray area, you all of a sudden become a friend of the show or fired. I will say throughout this episode, I did think it was interesting to have a take of a clinical psychologist, Isabel Morley, and then you also had an attorney into the mix as well, which was kind of playing devil's advocate, so to speak. And it was all very interesting, so we'll get into it. So you have the clinical psychologist, Isabel, Dr. Morley, and she tells the audience that these reality shows normalize bad behavior, these shows normalize substance abuse, physical violence, these cat fights that break out normalizes emotionally abusive behavior. And what's so crazy about all of this is that this really is a discussion whether or not reality TV should exist. I think so, because I mean, it's not going to be entertaining if there's no drama. People are not watching for candy canes and lollipops. You know what I mean? People are not sitting there saying, hey, I want to see everyone be so successful and no one fight and everyone smile and enjoy their day. Like, no one is saying that when they're watching these reality TV shows. No one. Everyone wants to see everyone fight. You know, everyone wants to see everyone argue about the most pettiest things, or sometimes not the most pettiest things. But I do think that the niche will not be there. Reality TV won't be there if there's no drama. The audience can tell when people are pulling drama out of their butts. The audience can tell when people are only trying to make drama to stay on the show. People want to see real drama, real live stuff. So then Juju Chang, she does ask Bethany, are you biting the hand that fed you? And Bethany responds, that hand didn't feed me. We fed each other, and that hand that did feed me deserves to be bitten. And then the show brings up just an inappropriate montage scenarios, well, actually real life stuff that happened on reality TV. You had the below deck situation where you had a guy not clothed get into another person's bed without her consent, and then the production team waking him up and telling him to get out of the bed, which really shouldn't have gone as far as it did. I mean, the fact that they have cameras on them 24/7 and the production team didn't think to stop that from happening. I mean, that's a whole nother story on its own. And then you had season 5 of Love is Blind, that someone is being sued for SA. Well, actually, the cast member accused her cast member of sexual and is now suing her former partner and the production company, which had all denied the allegations. I mean, there's just so much inappropriate things that are happening on reality TV, and you have to ask yourself, are people allowing this to happen because it's good TV? Are people taking it too far to make good TV? I mean, there's a lot of things you can ask yourself here, and so it kind of makes you just think, when is it too far? You ask yourself, when is enough? So as Ching is talking to Leah McSweeney, you know, we get a brief summary of who she is. She's a fashion designer that joined the Real Housewives of New York City in 2019. Leah says she's not ashamed of being a recovering alcoholic. She's been doing drugs and drinking since she was 13. But she does mention to us, or shares with us, that the same week that she got the call to audition was the same week she relapsed after 9 years. Now, this was very sad for me to watch, to hear her say that the moments that are fan favorites were actually her darkest moments. It gets dark to where Leah's like, there's moments to where she would be, after filming, blackout drunk. And then you have Bethany chiming in saying, you know, if production sees a cast member on their 12th drink, instead of saying, hey, maybe we should cut you off, they're bringing the cameras that direction. Bethany goes on to say that it's encouraged at work. You see someone having a nervous breakdown or someone falling off the wagon, that's exciting to production. That's great TV. So Leah shares with us that the first season of the Real Housewives of New York City, she got paid $3,000 an episode. And she does say that she discussed with staff or production that she was struggling mentally and she was an alcoholic or is struggling, right? And Chang asks her, why not tell the production that you were having a full-blown relapse? You know, why not just straight up be like, this is what's going on, I need serious help? And Leah responds saying, like, a part of her felt that she was in denial and told herself that she could drink normally. I mean, she was hoping that the show would bring her great financial success and she'd be able to help her mom retire. She'd be able to fully live in a true 2-bedroom New York City apartment. And then they bring up episodes. One memorable one was the Tiki Torch episode. They bring up, you know, a lot of moments to where Leah was drunk on camera. And Leah says that she takes full responsibility, because at first I was like, it sounded like she wasn't going to take responsibility, but she brings it back and she goes, no, I take responsibility. I just want, as a result, production, they don't give castmates a copious amount of alcohol after seeing that they are completely wasted. The only reason why I felt like, at least in the beginning of this episode, this documentary, that Leah was not taking any accountability was because she kept saying, they were giving me this and they knew I was drunk or I was blacked out. And I just feel like I understand that Leah is a recovering alcoholic. I understand. But with any situation, even with addiction, you have to be willing to want to make that change for yourself. You know what I mean? And if that means you take yourself out of the environment, which she did, but if that means you take yourself out of the environment, then that's what you have to do. But I'm not really into blaming people for the actions that I did. Feel me? So anyways, Leah goes on to say that there is no, this isn't okay. It's get the cameras in her face right away because she's had like 12 drinks of alcohol. Leah shares that it becomes a dangerous work environment when people are extremely intoxicated. Leah gets asked by Chang, do you think it's up to the producers to cut somebody off? And Leah responds, yes, because bars cut people off all the time. If someone can't walk straight, then you give them water. And then there is this conversation with the clinical psychologist, Isabel Morley. The conversation is about reality TV, how yes, you can make reality TV dramatic. You can do all the dramatic things to get your good shot, to get your good show, to get your good ratings. However, it does become problematic when you're sacrificing an individual's mental health and their physical health to get that shot. And then, of course, you have the wonderful civil trial lawyer, Rich Schoenstein. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. He's basically saying, of course, alcoholism is a disease. It's not anyone's fault, so it'd be difficult to attack producers as encouraging their alcoholism, enabling their alcoholism, and causing the alcoholism. So he's like, it's just going to be a very hard thing to do to kind of push that blame onto someone else. So after season 12, Leah decided to return for another season. And when she gets asked, like, why did you return? Leah goes, I returned newly sober, and they were offering me 3 times an episode. She went from $3,000 to $9,000 an episode, so I would go back too. Leah does share with us that season 13 was more painful to film because it was during 2020 and her grandmother was dying, and she told the producers she was having a mental health crisis, said she was struggling, and the response she got was, get it together, focus on your work. And she's like, this is my life. We're filming a reality TV show. This is my reality. Now, the network, they do share with us that Leah was provided a sober coach. She was provided scheduling accommodations so that way she can go to AA meetings. The network, they say that she had a psychologist, that she had a doctor. Leah admits that she went to a doctor and the doctor never mentioned anything about alcohol or anything like that. So I don't know. It does sound like the network, they did give her some resources. So whenever time a network does give you a resource, I have to question, you got to meet them halfway too, feel me? As a viewer, I'm like, okay, well, they didn't just completely ignore you. They gave you a sober coach, scheduling accommodations, a psychologist to talk to, a doctor to go to. So it's like you got to meet halfway. So I can't fully, unfortunately, back Leah after hearing what I've heard. But I do, I still sympathize with that frustration, that struggle. Bravo TV also disputes Leah's claims. They say a member of production at one point offered Leah some emotional support. So take what you will with that. Leah does say that she tried to quit the franchise and went through an executive from Shed Media, which is the production company that works with the Real Housewives of New York City. And then she went to Bravo, and Bravo was the one that was like, no, you're going to stay on the show. Leah shares with us that she was told by a Bravo executive that, we still have more storytelling to do with you. Of course, Bravo disputes this claim. Leah at the time says that she checked herself into a mental health institution, and at the time, Leah felt like her daughter would be better off without her. It was like a tough interview. I felt really bad watching this interview. I was like, oh, this is like so sad, But I I feel that to kind of change it up a little bit because it gets really sad, you know, like, but to change it up a little bit, I do believe somewhat of what Leah's saying as far as her going to Bravo and they're saying no, like we have so much storytelling to do. I do believe the network was definitely not going to back Leah in the beginning as far as when it came to her quitting the show, because let's be real, from a company's view, anyone could be like, oh, hey, you know, I'm struggling, I'm going through this. Get a housewife on their worst day ever or their pettiest day ever, and they could say anything they want. So I understand also where the company's coming from, or the network, where anyone can say this. Anyone can use this and get out of the contract, get out of doing the show. Leah also says that, you know, a few months later, Bravo offered her to do the Ultimate Girls Trip. It's a spinoff of the Housewives show. And you get to film for 1 week and get paid $250,000. So say no more. Like, who's denying that? You know, I wouldn't deny that. But it was unfortunate for Leah because then they made the show about her sobriety. But here's my thing. She was saying two things. At one moment she was saying, they talked about me on the Ultimate Girls Trip and it was all pointed around my sobriety. But then the other moment you're like, okay, this is my real life. This is reality. So it's like they're talking about your reality. You wanted them to talk about your reality. Now they're talking about your reality and now you don't like it. She was contradicting herself because she wasn't making any sense. She kept flip-flopping to me. That's what I felt like. I'm so sorry. But that's what it felt like. So after filming the Ultimate Girls Trip the next year, Leah's lawyers filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and she filed through the EEOC because she's claiming discrimination because of the alcoholism, the mental health issues, substance abuse issues. This is protected by the ADA, which she didn't know until recently. Unfortunately for Leah, her complaints were dismissed with the reasons I told you guys earlier. You know, she was offered a sober coach, a doctor, a psychologist. You know, she was offered these things. So now another thing I found crazy about Bravo, the network, not surprising by any means, but crazy, was that Leah's attorneys, they asked Bravo to please implement rules if someone is blackout drunk and cannot consent to filming, that you do not film them. And Bravo's response was no. And that's not really shocking because Bravo's whole thing is like, you can take accountability for your own actions. We're not going to be forcing anything down your throat. Now, with that being said, recently, Bravo has updated their policies regarding alcohol. So they have changed their rules. You know, they have become more stricter. To me, it sounded like they were willing to make that change, but they didn't want it to be documented that they were making those claims because of Leah. And then it cuts to Bethany again, and we go to the filming of her wedding, how it was like one of the highest rated event Bravo has ever broadcasted. And Bethany explains that she went through a 10-year horrific divorce and that marriage is being exploited, monetized, and sold to so many different entities. And the thing I can agree with Bethany here, when signing a contract 15 years ago, no one knew there would be streaming. Streaming wasn't discussed. Bethany shares with us that they signed their lives away without any idea where it could be distributed. And then, of course, you have the attorney, Rich Shostein. He chimes in and he's like, well, if the reality stars want those original contracts to change, they have to be renegotiated or amended by the parties, obviously, if they want it to change. So, which is not going to happen. The network isn't going to sit down, especially if they don't have to. Why would they? To give the reality stars, give the people who they contracted more money? Now, Bethany does get asked, why do you think labor issues is such a huge topic right now? And she responds that there's a big thing going on about society and exploitation overall. People are starting to open their eyes about what's going on, you know, what's okay, what's not okay. Like, wait, did that just happen? And they even bring up Andy Cohen, because recently on BravoCon, Andy Cohen was asked about Bethany Frankel, which he knew he would, obviously. And his response was, I live in the joy these shows bring people, and I think we all do. Of course, Bethany calls BS on that. She doesn't think that Andy Cohen really believes that. She believes that Andy Cohen has to say that. He has to play the game. There has also been recent reports of Bethany Frankel now staying in present time here, that she would be open to talking to Andy Cohen and thinks that they would be able to resolve their relationship eventually down the line, because apparently she had saw him at some party and yada yada. So who knows, maybe there is hope for those two. But Andy Cohen is really quiet. He's very hush, and I think he has to be because he's basically the face of Bravo. Now, they even bring up Raquel or Rachel Leviss from Vanderpump Rules, when that whole scandal happened. That fallout happened. Raquel was the villain, Rachel was the villain, and Rachel's like, wait a minute. You guys are making so much money off of me and you guys want me back for another season, but I'm not allowed to ask you money, even though you guys are going to the bank on my name and my drama, the things that happened. And Bravo responds that they don't, give their reality stars money just because they're the topic of the show or, it's popping for them right now. They give reality stars raises every year, every season, but you can't just go in and say, oh, the drama's hot right now, so give me more money or I'm not coming back. So that's basically what Bravo said. And there is a truthful discussion that you have Ariana, you have all these other people who are benefiting hugely from this scandal. And the only person who's not really benefiting from it, who the scandal is about, is Rachel. And now a lot of people, they dislike her because they said she's a cheater and all the bad things. I get it, y'all. I get it. But at the end of the day, there's so many people who've cheated on these Bravo shows. It's not even funny. It's just people are caring about Vanderpump Rules. But I will say the upside for Rachel Raquel Leviss, if you care, is that she will be premiering her podcast when Vanderpump Rules airs, which is in January. So I don't know what's good marketing if that's not. So then you have Nick Thomas from Love is Blind and Jeremy Hartwell. They sit down and they discuss all the problematic behaviors on the show Love is Blind, the most popular show that's on Netflix. International popular show, really. So this popular show that everyone knows, Love is Blind, on it, Nick Thomas, he ended up getting married on international television, and at the time, Nick believed he was truly in love. He came out of the experience thinking that it wasn't ideal, but he fell in love. But what was sad to hear is at the time, Nick and Danielle both say that they were distressed while filming the show. And what's even worse is that just 6 months after their wedding episode aired, they separated. So Chang does ask Nick, why did you get divorced? And he's like, the moment you walk in there, it feels like a pressure cooker. Nick truly feels that if he was treated better and supported better, things might have been different. The word naive gets danced around with Chang, Nick, and Jeremy because Jeremy Hartwell, also a castmate on the Love is Blind, he was pushing for a change. So Jeremy and Nick, they're sitting together, and Nick shares with us that he felt blindsided, no pun intended, but he felt blindsided by the whole thing because he had no idea that Danielle, she was having panic attacks. He had no idea that she was struggling mentally, and they didn't have any, psychological support on set. He goes on to say that the producers never told him about it or helped her with it. And then when you hear that the working conditions were awful, Jeremy filed a class action lawsuit last year alleging California labor law violations. They worked anywhere from 16 to 20 hours a day on set, and they were paid $1,000 a week stipend, which amounts to, Jeremy says, $7.14 an hour. So, and what's strange is that Nick, he would talk about a time where he would be on set and he would see the production team, they would change, whether it was every 10 hours or 12 hours. And he was like, wait a minute. So they have a contract that they can only work for 10 to 12 hours, right? But we're just getting our days started. I got a date all night now. We're just working. We've been working all day. So it's very concerning when they start talking about their working situation. The lawsuit that Jeremy filed says the production company fostered inhumane working conditions and failed to provide uninterrupted rest periods. They never let them sleep for more than 3 to 4 hours a night, not getting enough food, having to ask for water. The focus was on the storylines. And that's when Ching asks, why do you think other reality stars are afraid to come forward or afraid to talk? And they're like, because of the contract. There's so many things in this contract. Like, they can get fined $1 million if they fight an edit. They can get fined $50,000 if they leave on set while filming. Nick goes on to say that the companies that run these reality TV shows are treating these employees like contract workers. As a result, many employers or production companies are able to slip in more power and take advantage because they don't have to follow the rules as someone that's working for, a Walmart, working for a company with actual employees. Like, And that makes sense that a lot of these Netflix or companies would take the contract employees and really take full advantage of what they can do. But there is a plus side to this. Because of what Nick and Jeremy went through, they founded the Unscripted Cast Advocacy Network to provide outside support for cast members before, during, and after production. Their goal is to join forces with production companies. Basically, how I see it, they want to be the HR for HR, which is great. And it's even better when you have an outside source and you don't have someone with the network. But I don't know why would any network want that. I mean, networks claim they have that, but I don't think they really do. And what's so crazy is that you have Dr. Morley, the clinical psychologist who works as a director with this organization. And this organization is supposed to help with also your legal and mental health issues. So hopefully someone hires them, a production team hires them, so that way in the future, when it comes to reality TV or really, honestly, any TV in general, that your employees, the people who you're contracted with, they are treated fairly. I mean, that's all people really want, is just to be paid fairly and to be treated fairly, treated like a human being. But it's so funny because this episode, it closes out with, you have the attorney, Rich Shosteen is like, what y'all complaining about? I don't see how reality TV can happen if you guys want to fix all this. That's basically what this attorney says. And at the end, the show does bring up Bravo's rules and how they change their policies. They have more stricter guidelines on alcohol consumption and increased psychological support. And then you have Bethany Frankel, who says changes are being made and will continue to be made. Hey guys, editing me real quick. How could I forget? I forgot the most talked about part of this show. So Chang, because we went to Dramaversity. So Chang says to Bethany, you were good friends with Andy Cohen. He literally made you a star. And she responds, he didn't make me a star. He made himself a star on the backs of all of these women. Now, regardless if you love Andy Cohen, I love Bravo, I love Andy Cohen, I'm a fan, But regardless of what your take is, you cannot tell me that wasn't like a ooh moment. Come on, that was definitely a ooh. That was, ooh, she just said that. So I definitely was mad at myself for not adding that in there. I was like, say what? That was definitely a moment. Bethany wasn't lying. It really is a symbiotic relationship. These reality stars, being on the show increases their business, it's financial gain. It makes them more famous, obviously there's disadvantages, but it is a symbiotic relation here. Andy Cohen is also benefiting. So I just wanted to add that in there. Anyways, back to the video. So that was the episode. I really thought it was going to be more on Bethany Frankel. And I understand why she's like the face of it, because, she started this movement, this revolution. Well, people say that actually Nick Thompson started it. People say, well, but it doesn't matter who started it, in my opinion. I think as long as action is taking place, as long as someone is doing something about it, then we're moving somewhere. We're getting somewhere. I think there will be a union eventually for reality TV stars. I feel that production companies and the way how contracts are distributed it's just gonna widely change. Now the questions are gonna be, well, if my show makes it to Netflix or a streaming service, what cut will I get when you sell that show to the streaming service? I think there's gonna be more conversations about that. As a viewer, as an audience who watches television, and advertisement companies are going to be the ones flipping the bill for what's to come in the future. I feel like a lot of our subscriptions are going to go up significantly, because how every year or so they be pushing it up. I feel like it's going to go just drastically up, and then we all wish we had cable again. Yeah, those are my thoughts about this. I don't know. As far as the alcohol consumption, I do believe that if production sees someone, completely they can't walk, I don't think it's in their best interest even to get that perfect shot to give them another drink. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. I don't think there should have ever been a situation like the one we saw on Below Deck, where the guy is going into the girl's bed, not clothed. Like, come on. Obviously, we see production get him out of the bed, but I just don't believe that they did everything they could to stop that from happening. I think good TV and storylines will always come first before anything else, because good TV, good storylines equal good money. But I want to know your honest opinion about the Bethany Frankel, the reality reckoning. Are there any good points to it? Do you agree or disagree? Just let me know what you think should happen to reality stars. Should they have their own union? So yeah, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon on the next video. Bye guys.